in the last year or two, I've understood, actually, that the more I look outside of me, the more I lose myself. So now I'm learning to look within, always within, because that's where my resource is. That's where my joy is. That's where my happiness lies. And in that place of beingness, of course, all my behavior changed. So then I became much, much more interested in that rather than the content of my thinking. So as that happened to me, my stories began to fall away. And I was a person that had always been interested in a spiritual life. I don't know if anybody else is here, but I had been studying non-dualism because I had a sense that if I could just get to the middle of good, bad, right, wrong, there was balance there for me. Only to discover on a retreat with Dr. Keith Blevins in January that actually non-duality or duality doesn't really exist. Can you imagine when all of that fell away too? Then again, what's revealed is truth. And there's a power to truth. There's a resonance to truth. So to make that into a metaphor, if you were to walk into a music shop, for example, and press a G on the guitars, a one guitar in the room, all the guitars are going to resonate at G. And I discovered that when human beings hear the truth, we all resonate with it at the same time. And that's what creates our connection. That's what creates our community. That's what creates that experience of oneness, when momentarily we're in touch with the truth, and the truth resides within us. In fact, we are the truth. When I discovered the single paradigm within the principle, that completely blew my mind. Because what that did for me, it simplified my practice. I was able to describe the principles more logically, because there's a logic and wisdom to how we function as human beings. It's not woo-woo and airy-fairy, though we will experience that from time to time, because it's such a beautiful feeling. It's extremely logical. And again, it's upstream to our stories and our dramas and our traumas and our upsets and our beliefs, concepts and ideas. It's upstream from that. So when we look at the logic and when we look at the wisdom, we slide into, inadvertently, innocently, to a beautiful feeling. And it's actually the feeling that does the work for us. This is the first time in my entire life where I've come across something where I didn't have to do anything. Now that was a challenge for me, because I was such a doer. You know, I thought it was all up to me and the world was on my shoulders and I was going to heal the world, you know, like that. The arrogance of it when I look at it now. But it's the one thing that all I had to do was show up and listen, because I didn't have to do anything. And yet, I found myself feeling different, being different. So if anybody would say to me, oh, you don't have to do anything, I would think, oh yeah, where did that come from? But actually it's the truth. If I just show up, actually that's all I have to do. Because as soon as we get that beautiful feeling, the healing begins. Whatever it is that we don't all... The thing is with the principles, I can't make a list like I could with energy psychology. I can't say, this is how I want to change in this particular area, and oh, by the way, I would like more clients or more money or develop more business or whatever it is. It doesn't work like that. But it works in the most beautiful, kind, loving way that I've ever experienced. And generally speaking, I only know that I've changed about 2 or 3 weeks later when I suddenly go, woo, I reacted very differently to that than I would have previously. So a little bit more about the logic and the wisdom. My practice has changed phenomenally from as a practitioner, as a trainer, and as a trainer of trainers. There was a lot of doing in my work. So I was very, very busy doing. So you could see how easy it was for me to burn out. Because if you've got like 25 to 30 clients a week, you're working 60 to 70 hours a week, you're traveling all over the place, there's a lot of doing in that. With the principles, it's completely different. There's the understanding that my client has this already within them. Now that makes it really simple, because all I have to do is keep pointing them in the direction of what's true, and actually what's true for all of us. And that is at our very core, there is a constant, and as you know in science, when scientists find a constant, that's something they can hang their hat on in every moment of every day. And I've hung my hat on the constant of absolutely knowing without a shadow of a doubt that within each individual on this planet, the principles are human beings in action. So we already have it. So there's nothing really to learn. There's nothing really to practice. As I said before, it's more about revealing what's already there. The interesting thing is, I never work with the stories anymore. So it's not necessary to take anybody into the past, and I literally mean the past being a second ago, because we change moment to moment to moment. So the paradigm of the principles is about understanding how we don't function as human beings and how we do function as human beings. And I've noticed that in groups and with people that I work with, when they understand how they function, just like me, their stories begin to dissolve. Their dramas become less and less, and they live more within a feeling of peace, within a feeling of well-being. And what we find is actually well-being is not on the outside of me and cannot be found in a beautiful rose in nature, although it's helpful. No, it's already there within me. And that's the greatest gift that I can ever give myself, is to discover how I work, how I function, and then to notice the relationship that I have with my own thinking. Because everybody else's thinking is their business, and it's not my business to concern myself with what's happening for them. My business is really the primary relationship that I have with my own thinking. And the more that I see that, the more that I understand that, the more that I understand my innocent misunderstandings of how I don't function, the more loving I get. And now I begin to develop a relationship with myself. And it becomes what I would call a kind of a loving introspection, because I'm becoming more and more aware of the content of my own thinking all the time. So then accidentally, it seems to me, or even miraculously, my relationships change, the way I run my business changes. The whole world seems to change on the outside of me. That's not true, of course, but guess what? I'm looking at the world through loving eyes. I'm looking at the world and seeing inspiration and miracles. And of course I fall out of that too. And I forget all of that because that's what I'm built to do. So, I can stomp around. The problem is now, whereas before, I wouldn't have allowed myself those feelings because as an EFT master, you were given a tool and the expectation was that you should be perfect all the time. So I delight in getting angry now. I can have a really good stomp, I tell you. But I enjoy it. Whereas before I might have felt guilty about it, I might have judged myself for it. Now there's a freshness to that anger. There's a sweetness to it. It's like I can easily see myself getting angry, then settling down very quickly. And guess what? Despite what's happening on the outside of me, I know deeply and powerfully that I'm okay. And so are you.